So the Lakers do not have Anthony Davis. That does not mean I can't still milk videos out of this whole situation, because I want to talk about the Lakers and where they project for the rest of the season now. Now, the number one thing to point out is the status of the team and the team chemistry and all that. Kuzma had a quote recently where he said it did affect the team a bit, all the trade rumors and everything swirling around, and we don't know how these guys are really going to react to this because we're not in their heads. The Celtics game helped. You hope that they have the mentality of, we're going to prove Magic or whoever wrong, that they shouldn't trade us. But we don't really know. I could picture that still being planted in the back of Kuzma and Ingram and Lonzo's brains, which could make them maybe 4% worse in some way, but unfortunately it's impossible to really tell. But I think it's still a fear that we should have moving forward for this team. The Lakers right now are the 10th seed. They are 2.5 games out of the 8th seed. I think the goal for them should be to get to the 7th seed, because if this team gets to the 7th seed and they're 3 games out behind the Spurs right now, then I think they can make the Western Conference Finals, because I believe in LeBron James that much, and I think all these teams in the West, besides Golden State, are beatable, and I think they're definitely beatable when they're going up against, So anyway, how will this team actually get to that point? Well, number one, we have to look at the teams they're dealing with. The Clippers are probably trying to fall out. Granted, the Avery Bradley swap got them 2 good players. The Kings are not going to give up, and the Spurs, they've lost 4 in a row, so maybe they fall out, maybe they don't, I don't know. It's definitely going to be a tough hill for the Lakers, but the first thing I want to point out is the acquisition of Reggie Bullock, which I was a fan of. They did have to give up Shfee McCulloch, but, when you got LeBron at his age, you just don't have time for these 21-year-olds to see if they're good or not. You got to get a guy who can help you right now. Reggie Bullock can do that. 3-and-D player, given the amount of playmakers on this team, that's a good move. We'll have to see if he ends up playing over like Lance, I guess, because you could view Lance Stevenson as the awkward player who needs the ball in his hands and isn't that great of a shooter and is not as good of a playmaker as Rondo, LeBron, Lonzo, and all that. Lonzo's, of course, hurt right now, so I guess Lance could still get minutes. But even against Philly, Lance only played 12 minutes, whereas Reggie Bullock played like 31, which I do support that idea. Now, as far as the rest of the team, there's a lot of versatility now between Reggie Bullock, Josh Hart, Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo. A lot of guys who can play a couple different positions, defend a few positions, and be pretty fundamentally sound. I mean, I know Kuzma is still an inconsistent three-point shooter. I know he had a great game against Philly. He was great against the Celtics as well. For the season, he's shooting like 32%. Ingram's fit next to LeBron, still a little awkward. We know this. He occasionally gets a little too antsy with the ball in his hands and the post and all that. It's just, not the great off-ball shooter that you typically want next to LeBron, and he's not like the pass-first guy like Lonzo is. But even so, I think Ingram's a damn good defensive player who just does enough good things to where he doesn't hurt this team. Lonzo's defense combined with Hart and Kuzma, who's been a little better, Ingram that I just mentioned, the fact that Tyson Chandler is holding up even if JaVale seems to be kind of falling back down to earth defensively, I think that can hold up. I saw a stat recently where without Lonzo, this team's defensive rating has plummeted. I don't think that's all because of him. I think that's definitely some of it, though, because, Lonzo can defend multiple positions, and I don't know if he really deserves first-team all-defense for one of the 2 guard positions, but I think there's been parts of this season where he has been that good. So, yeah, the Lakers certainly need what he does defensively, and also just the general vibe that Lonzo brings where, yeah, I know the shooting sucks, and sometimes he takes threes he shouldn't take and all that, and sometimes his jump shot completely disappears, but his general presence, man, just the way he makes those extra passes and the rebounds he still grabs and just the little things he does that don't show up in the stat sheet. Yeah, I'm fully on Team Lonzo while recognizing his flaws. I do want to get to Rondo, and I think he could end up being kind of the key player of this whole thing. I think Rondo has had, well, number one, he hasn't played a lot this season. He's been injured for a good chunk of this year. He's only played 22 games. But even in the games that he's been back, I think he's had moments where he's looked really damn good, aggressive, and sure, he doesn't shoot a lot of free throws because he doesn't go all the way to the rim a lot of the time, but just that aggressiveness to just do that rather than just float around the perimeter and make passes that everybody else can make is a good sign. And I think we started to see that again from him really towards like maybe the end of the Bulls run, and then definitely his year with the Pelicans and into the playoffs for the Pelicans. And if he can just keep on doing that and putting pressure on the defense, then his impact is a lot higher. Now, defensively, I don't know if he can be relied upon like that, but assuming you don't play him more than like everybody else just because he's Rajon Rondo, then I think that's about all you can ask for out of Luke. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of players here. I think the rotation at this point, assuming the team is healthy, and we're going to have to see when Lonzo comes back, is LeBron, either Tyson or JaVale, I don't really care which one, Kuzma, Ingram, and Lonzo. And then you're going in with Rondo, Hart, KCP, Reggie Bullock, the other center, and I think that's kind of it. That's like your 10-man team. Now, Josh Hart is going through some stuff with his health, and also he's just kind of struggled to make shots for about a month now. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I think that's a team that can win because, of course, they got the best player of all time. So it's just a matter of making it happen and the team being healthy, and hopefully they don't have too big of a hole to climb out of. I mean, they're 28 and 28, so that's 56 games total, which means they have, 26 games left in the season? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they went, 18 and 8 over that stretch or something like that. And, I think at that point you'd probably assume they're going to get in, because that would mean the Clippers, the Kings, the Spurs, all three of those teams would have to be doing really well. And in case I sound kind of confident with this, it's because I think this team was starting to gel together, even if their record wasn't beautiful before LeBron got injured. It takes a while to adjust to LeBron, man. I mean, the Heat, regular season-wise, it took them about 17 games before they kind of turned it on. And even then, they didn't really figure it out until round 2 against the Pacers. And that team had prime Dwayne Wade and a very good Chris Bosh. So you downgrade the talent, and of course it's going to take longer. Similar thing when he went to the Cavs. They didn't really start clicking until that round 1 series against the Celtics. And again, like I said, I do think if this Lakers team can get into the 7th spot and they get the Nuggets in round 1, then I think they have a real chance of winning that series. I mean, they're going to have the best player no matter what series they play. And then after that, I mean, can Murray and Harris score efficiently in a playoff series? They're both 6'4" or whatever they are. And I think you could still go at Jokic even if his defense has been a little better. And then just going down pretty much every team in the West that they would potentially play in a series. They might get the Thunder in round 2. Yeah, OKC's good. Their defense is awesome. But if Westbrook's inefficiencies are going to continue, you think that team's beating LeBron James? Certainly possible, because that team's tough as hell, and I do think they could cause some matchup problems for the Lakers, specifically at the center position. And you of course have to mention how good Paul George has been this year, but even with all those things applied, it's LeBron James, man. Just saying. And then from there they would of course get bounced by the Warriors, but getting to the conference finals would be quite an accomplishment. So, I think that's what it is for the Lakers. If they can get that 7th spot, then I think they could go on a hell of a playoff run.